Good evening, family. It feels so good to be back with you. It's been a minute since we've been together, but sometimes stepping back is necessary so that you can come back stronger, sharper, and more focused. And that's exactly what this new season is all about. And in this season, I'm not going to be only talking about credit and insurance. I'm going to be digging deep into economic empowerment, biblical financial principles, and also showing you how to build lasting legacy in a system that was not designed for us. New shows, new knowledge, same mission. And the mission is to help you win. So grab your paper, grab a notebook, and I need your mindset because we're about to shift some things. Welcome to the Make Sense with Your Money Show. Let me just say something to y'all. Let me tell you something. We're not broke. We're just misguided. We don't have a money problem. We have a knowledge problem. Bottom line, it's a knowledge problem because a lot of us, when we want to go take a vacation or we want to give our kids these $1,000 parties, we find the money. Okay. And I'm not throwing thoughts at nobody, but I'm just speaking truth. And I'm not saying you can't celebrate your kids and do all of that kind of stuff, but it's important that knowledge, we have to have knowledge when it comes to spending money. They don't teach us how the system works because they don't want us to, because they want us to stay in the system. Let me make sure. They don't teach us how the system works because they want us to stay in it. But this season, we're breaking the cycle. We're waking up and we're going to learn how money really moves so that we can stop surviving and start building. I'm your host, Cynthia Hurley, and this is where faith meets finance and legacy becomes law. So let's get started. I want to go over economic systems. All right. I want to talk about economics, the economic system. All right. What they never taught us. Capitalism. Now, when I say the word capitalism, do you understand exactly what that means? All right. Now, I know some of you may understand what it means, but for those of you who don't, let me just break it down just a little. Capitalism is an economic system where money rules. Okay. And those who own the resources make the rules, right? So it's built, capitalism is built to create profit. It's not about being fair. I hear a lot of people when they talk about, oh, Trump is doing this for the rich and that's not fair. And he's only looking out for the rich and that's not fair. It's not about fairness. So you have to become an owner. What do I mean? Owner of land, owner of property, owner of business, owner of investments. Because if you're not, you're on the losing end of it. So let's talk about how capitalism profits over people. All right. So in capitalism, the goal is profit over people. You know. So let me see if I can break this down. Okay. So companies don't exist to help us. Y'all know that, right? Companies do not exist to help us. They exist to grow their bottom line. And I know a lot of you know that. Y'all know that already. That's why they pay you just enough to survive. Why the CEO and the shareholders get rich, because that's the way the system is designed, right? But here's the good news. Okay, you want to hear what the good news is? Once you understand the system, you can flip the game. I remember when I was in the system because what do I know? But God has positioned me, right, so that I can teach finances to the masses. But when you're teaching this stuff, you go through things. Ain't no way I'm going to be teaching you anything if I haven't been through a whole lot. Okay. And I'm still young. I know there's a whole lot I got to go through, but I've been through so much. Wow, financially. But I want to show you how you can flip the game. You can stop being just a worker or a consumer and you can become an owner. Some people don't want to start businesses, but you don't have to do that and still become an owner. That's when the system starts working for you. That's when the system starts working for you. Okay? So, do you know that America runs on four things? And I'll tell you what the four things are. So, it's credit, it's debt, it's taxes, and it's consumerism. That's what America is run off of. Okay? So, most of the African Americans, we were left out of the early wealth. All right, we were left out of the wealth building game, if you will. All right, which is land grants and all of that stuff that Martin Luther King got killed for, and he was trying to make us aware of. Okay, you know, redlining and all of that stuff. So we were never taught how to build wealth. But now is some enlightenment going on because people are now getting it, but there's still a whole lot of people that don't know. All right. We were taught only how to work for it, the money, and then spend it. That's what we were taught. But the game has changed. We were taught to work for it and to spend it. That's what we were taught. And it was transferred generationally. Okay. So what I'm saying is that until you understand the system, you will always be a slave to it. So it's time for us to understand this system, y'all. And I know some of you may understand it, but a lot of us is still left out of the loop. Okay. All right. So I told you what America runs off of, right? The four things: credit, debt, taxes, and consumerism. So what does that mean? And what does that mean? Let me break it down for you. America does not run on freedom. Okay? It does not run on that. Credit is how they measure us. That's why I'm so glad that God has given me the knowledge to teach me about credit. Credit is how they measure us, your worthiness. What is your worthiness in the system? Okay, that's why it's so important for you to get your credit right. Okay. Number two, debt. That is how they trap us. Oh, that's a big trap. Student loans. Can you imagine? Some people, do you know? Let me just, student loans. Student loans, them things are like mortgages, like you carry them till death. And watch this, which is the really bad part about it. These are government loans. I don't know why the government just don't do away with them. Okay, that's another episode. If a parent co-signs for their child to go to school and something happens to the child, do you know the government comes after that parent for the money? I don't know if you knew that. That's disgusting. There was a man that a client of mine's actually. He was, I want to say he was about 70 something years old. Had retired from his first job, but he had went to the school. It was like some type of school he went to, and the school closed down, and he had some type of financial aid from that school. And this was when he was very young. I want to say in like his 30s. That man was like 70 something years old. He retired, and he was working at some fast food restaurant way down in the deep south. I don't know if it was Atlanta, Georgia. I don't quite remember. But get this. Do you know they came after him and garnished? Did you know that they garnished his paycheck for that student loan that was like 40 years old? I don't even want to talk about it. But anyway, so debt is how they trap us. Credit cards, car loans, high interest rate you paying for that car loan. Because of your credit. That's why I'm a big advocate of credit. And I got this new program now where $25 and you can just learn as you go. People always want somebody to do something for you. Why don't you learn how to do it yourself? And you can pay as you go. I mean, not pay as you go. Learn $25 a month, and it's a learn as you go system. So every time, whenever you get time, you can log into this system, this portal, and the system is going to show you what to do to get your credit right. You don't have to be one-on-one with me, but it's good for your knowledge so that you can learn, to equip yourself not to be ignorant of the system. So that's something you can check out. If you go on my social media pages, my handle is Make Sense with Money, right? You can easily look me up and check out it's called the Credit Fix, $25 a month. You learn how to delete student loans, late payments, debt validation, all kind of stuff. Where you gonna find it at for $25 a month? Okay. And the only reason why I'm doing that because the Lord told me to do it. But anyway, let's move right along. Taxes is another way that they get us. Okay. Well, let's see how do they get you with taxes? Well, taxes is how the system is funded, if you will. And if you don't understand the rules, you will always overpay. And that's an issue that a lot of us, well, I'm not in that category no more, but I used to be overpaying for taxes. If you don't have kids, you overpaying for taxes. But if you have a business, you can fix that. If you have assets, you can fix that, right? Consumerism is how they keep you spending. People are spending. We're the nation of spenders. You spending money on this, you spending money. I'm not saying you can't look nice, but you got to make sense with your money. You got to have wisdom with your money. Wisdom is a defense. I don't know, Ecclesiastes 7:12. Wisdom is a defense. Money is a defense. But the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom gives life for those who have it. What does that mean? That means that a lot of people have money, but they don't have wisdom with it. And that's why you can have $20,000 today and you be broke tomorrow. This is why people win the lottery and they broke in 2 years. This is why basketball players, they get all this money and then 2 years later they're broke. Because people, they don't have no wisdom with their money. Okay. So from the time you wake up every morning, you're part of the cycle. The gas, the groceries, okay, the phone bill, the rent. It's all tied into the system that profits off of your participation. All right? So I'm going to say this again. The system was not designed to serve us. So we must learn it, right? We must master it. And then we must teach our children, the next generation. You don't want to raise a next generation of slave-minded ignorance of, financial illiteracy. No, we don't want to do that. Now that we know how the system works, how can we capitalize off of it? How can we capitalize off the system? Well, number one, you got to become a business owner. Even if you feel like you're too old or you feel like you don't want to do that, well, then teach your children how to become a business owner. We all know, home-based businesses. We saw what COVID did. It just burst a whole generation of entrepreneurs, okay? A home-based business gives you access to tax deductions, business credit, and power. That's what a home-based business does. So that way you don't have to load your personal credit and mess that up. I did that already. It doesn't feel good. Okay, right. So if you don't own a business, then you're giving away benefits, right? If you don't own a business, you're giving away benefits that the wealthy live off of. Number two, you want to use credit to leverage, not to live. People brag about these credit scores, but what are you doing with it when you get it to the point that you need it to be? Good credit helps you to build wealth. How? Real estate, business capital, and investments. Okay? Your credit score is more powerful than a degree in some rooms. Now, I know people are always talking about degrees, but degrees, they really don't mean nothing. I mean, they mean something. I mean to say that. They do mean something, but it depends. Because you listen, there's a whole lot of entrepreneurs out here that have degrees, and a lot of them don't have degrees, and they're still making it, and were able to make it. Having a degree is nice, but your credit score is more powerful than your degree in some rooms. And you may have to sit on that for a minute to understand what I'm saying. Okay. Now, number three, Understand the tax code. You got to learn how to legally write off things like travel, meals, your home office, and so much more. There's a lot of things you can write off. You just got to get the right accountant that knows. I know a lot of us always trying to, give this one a break and do taxes with this because you need to go to a professional. You got to have a professional team, and that's a whole nother episode. But you need a professional team. Good tax person is in that team. All right. See, the rich don't cheat the system. They know the system. And I say it all the time. They talk about Trump with him filing so many different bankruptcies. Trump know the system. Y'all don't. Period. Okay. Number 4, investing. You want to be able to learn about investing, invest maybe in stock, maybe you want to invest in land. But here's the bottom line. When you invest, you want to invest in assets that grow. Always pray before you invest. Get God's guidance. Don't go invest over here and that because she's investing and making money. That may not be where God want to send you. You need to be wise about your investments because you can lose a whole lot if you're not. And that's always say you pray for guidance before you begin investing and buying and doing all of that kind of stuff, right? Because ownership, it flips the script. Okay? Because you go from spending to sowing. And that's a big financial principle, but I can't get into that right now. We'll talk about that some other time. And then with that, number 5, you protect what you do with paperwork. Well, what do you mean, Cynthia? Trust, wills, insurance policies, and business structures. Your corporation, your LLC, or whatever it is. These things protect your wealth. They protect your wealth, right? Wealth is not what you make it. It's what you keep and you pass on. And that's where a lot of people seem to mess up. Okay. All right, so let's move right along. Okay. How do you build the legacy? Building a legacy. What does that mean to you? Like building a legacy. If I asked you, okay, if I'm sitting down across from you and you say, I really want to build a legacy because I don't want my children or grandchildren to, struggle the way that we did or I did. Well, let me just go over some things, okay? A trust, and I've done shows on what a trust is, and you'll have to, go back in the history of my shows and you'll be able to find it. But first way is through, a trust. Okay, how do you build a legacy? Well, you need a trust, or maybe it's a will or whatever it is. I don't know your situation, but a trust is a legal way to hold assets for your family and avoid probate. So I always give this example when I'm talking about trust and probate or will and probate. Just look at Aretha Franklin. She wrote a will. She just handwritten something on a paper. She should have had her assets in a trust because that stayed in probate for what, 5, 6, 7 years before it was dissolved. You want to avoid all of that and get your finances in order. So a trust is what she needed because she had a lot of assets. Okay, so now you understand why a trust is a legal way to hold your assets for your family and avoid probate. Okay, a trust protects your money, it protects your property, it protects your businesses and your legacy. Mm-hmm. You do not need to be wealthy to have a trust. I think we do know that. Okay. In fact, trusts are how you get wealthy. I can't really get into all of that now. You have to go back and look at my previous episode. But trust is a way for you to get wealthy because it's protecting your assets. All right. So I have some homework for you to do. Yeah, I have some homework for you to do. What is the homework? Well, before I get into the homework, I want to say something. I want to say something. I hope that I was able to connect the dots with the topics that were discussed, right? Because connecting the dots means that you are recognizing the patterns and the power moves behind the scene. And that's what I was really trying to get you to see, right? Is understanding that, our communities, and I know a lot of you know this, were intentionally locked out of wealth building. And that's why you see, it saddens me that, I go to one part of town, you know, where I'm at. I'm in over in Canarsie. And some areas you can go to, like Manhattan, you go to certain parts in Brooklyn, and you see that, the boulevards and the streets where the grass and all of the trees, they're manicured. But then you come over in, the African American or the Latino neighborhoods where they feel, I guess, this manicure is not needed, or they just neglect. There's a lot of neglect in these neighborhoods. And it really, really pisses me off and it makes me angry. Because as I was driving down Linden Boulevard the other day, I mean, the middle of Linden Boulevard and on the sides, because, it's a boulevard. So you have, the different traffic. But those, I don't even know what in between the on Linden Boulevard, the grass is as tall as I am. The weeds are as tall as I am. Why isn't it that there's somebody in that community, or the people who live in that community, make some noise? You have all of these politicians that come to our communities when it's time for election. Do you not care what your neighborhood look like? We have to start caring, because it's an eyesore. It's so disheartening to drive down Linden Boulevard and those weeds as tall as I am. Or when you driving over by I believe it's Van Sinderen in Linden Boulevard, but it's right by the L train. And people, I call them nigger trees, okay? They come and they just dump their furniture and they dump refrigerators. Why can't you just go and pay and go to a dump and dump it? Nigger trees. You come in and you just pollute the neighborhood, and I don't know, I guess people just don't care. They don't say anything. But that really irritates me, because we have to be more involved in our communities, even with the supermarkets. You know, supermarkets that are in the hood are so much different than supermarkets that are in better areas. You go in supermarkets in the hood and the meat is old, and it's just not the same. There's a difference. And a lot of people that are in the hood, they're not, it's not that they don't, y'all just don't fight for me. Y'all just don't, you're not as aggressive. You're not passionate about these things. Just because you are living in the hood, that don't mean you deserve to be treated that way. Okay. So anyway, I'm gonna move on. Our communities were intentionally locked out of wealth building tools like real estate and business loans. All right. So when I talk about patterns and power moves behind the scenes, this is what I'm talking about, is that we were left out of those things, wealth building tools and real estate and business loans, redlining. We were left out. All right. Um, so, because we were left out, yeah, we ended up in situations and stuff like that. But it's a new day now, because people are waking up, and I want that to be no. It is a part of my mission, is to help to wake people up financially. Okay, we were taught to chase jobs instead of create them, breaking that cycle. Breaking that cycle. We were sold the American dream, but we were not given the blueprint. What is the blueprint for the American dream, y'all? I don't have time getting into all of that. But I will say this, though. When you know better, you do better. And that is my goal, is to help you to know better. because wisdom is a defense. The Bible says that in Ecclesiastes 7 and 12. It says wisdom is a defense over money. So my goal and my mission is to give you the wisdom, because that's what God has called me to do. That's what he's called me to do. Okay. All right. So as I end, okay, I want to give you an assignment, to kind of help you. And these are the three things that I would invite you to do. Hopefully, you've gained some insight from watching this, some things that maybe you can put into practice. I have some shows that's going to be really pouring into you to give you some things that you can use to help you learn how to build wealth, make some changes in your financial portfolio. We're gonna start using the word portfolio. I don't know if already you do, but you have a financial portfolio. I don't care if you got $5 in it. It's a financial portfolio, period. All right. So here's the homework for you guys, for you, just for you. Make a list of what you would like to pass down, whether it's a house, if it's a bank account, if it's life insurance. What is it? Is it some art? A lot of people got assets in their house and they don't know what they're worth, value. Some people got paintings, some people got coins. These are assets. Okay. Do an audit and see what you got. Number 2, I want you to write down who you can trust to handle your affairs. Because, it's interesting that, and I know because I do this too, people be like, such and such died. No! They died? Oh my God, I can't believe they died. All of us is gonna die. It's just a matter of when. But I fall into that sometimes too. I'll be like, oh no. Like as if we don't expect people to die. Why am I saying that? Is because we don't know when we're leaving out of here. So what that means that you need to have somebody that you can trust to handle your business affairs. Sorry about that, y'all. I got my dog right here. To handle your business affairs. And number 3, set a goal to talk to a legal professional if you don't have nobody that you can talk to, or you can call me. Now, I'm not a legal professional. I'm not saying that. But God has equipped me with the knowledge, 25 years plus, in finances. And I'll tell you in a minute what I'm not equipped to do. But there's a lot of things that God has taught me and equipped me to do. Okay? So those are the 3 things I want to leave you with. If you're not familiar with trust, maybe you want to start looking it up. You can call me if you want to get some information. At the end of the show, you're going to see my website, and you can go to the website, www.makesensewithyourmoney.com. And you can find out all about me, vet me, and all of that kind of stuff. Okay. So as we close, all right, I want you to remember something, that you don't just live in the system. You understand it. You're going to understand the system, because when you understand the system, you already know what happens. Okay. You don't just earn money, you multiply it. Okay. That's the goal of money. You want to multiply it, not to go spend on frivolous things. Okay. And you just want to work. You don't want to work for a living, but what you're doing is you're building a legacy. All right. Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in. And hopefully I'll see you next week, every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Thank you for tuning in. Have a blessed week.